Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton. And today I have a first for me. Someone I've seen speak on stage a couple times, someone I've read their book and have met in person. So I'm looking forward to just kind of digging into the book, and hopefully you guys will get something out of it too, but I'm going to be greedy. This is more about me than it is you today. So hopefully be somebody out there that'll have the same questions I have. So Brian Miller, thank you so much for coming on today.
Hey, Chris, thanks so much for having me. It's good to see you again. We were just in the desert together a few weeks ago. Can you believe it was already like 3 weeks ago?
Yeah, it is crazy, right? I can't. Yeah, it's so fast. I went to Saturday. I went to my best friend's grandmother's 100th birthday party.
My goodness.
And she still lives by herself.
Wow.
And she takes one vitamin and a sleeping pill every day. And that's it.
That's amazing. That's less than I take.
Oh, me too. I'm 53. That's way less than I take. That's way less. So anyways, so we talk about time. That's an interesting thing to see someone who's been there 100 years and has still got it going. Like she literally goes, yeah, next week they're coming to remodel my kitchen.
That is amazing. Wow. Well, it's like when I became a parent, I remember so many people telling me, the days are long, but the years are short. And
yes.
Man, as my kid's about to turn 6, that has never I've been, oh my God, he's 6. He's going into first grade. The days are long, but the years are short.
Yeah, no doubt. My kids are 33, 27, and 2.5. So believe me, I know they are.
Welcome back.
Yeah, but at this time I can actually afford it. It's so cool.
Yeah. Hey, that's I think I've thought that a lot, which was like, if I had had a kid in like my early 20s, like my mom had me when she was 23, and I said to her, I was just like, how did you do it? Like you were so young, you didn't have any financial stability. It's so much easier having a kid a little bit later. Now I have financial stability, all this stuff. She said, yes, that's true. But on the flip side, she goes, when I was 23, I hadn't built a life yet. It was just the next thing. It didn't disrupt anything because there was nothing to disrupt. She goes, you had an entire life you'd already built with your wife by this point. And so she's like, on the other hand, total disruption to your lifestyle. And I was that's interesting. 2 different perspectives. I'll take the financial stability version of it though.
Yeah, very, very true. But yes, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's not, the financial stability is nice. So I've read the book, the 1-page keynote, which is, as myself as a speaker, and took away some really good stuff in here. I'm actually going to use some of it at my next speaking engagement, which is actually Friday. So,
hey, great.
Yeah. And I got a question. So when you spoke at Forward this last time, is that what you use? Do you use this format every time you speak?
Yeah. Everything I teach, I use, right? I won't teach it if I don't use it. And that's one of the first ways that when I'm developing a new framework for communication or anything like that, one of the first ways I test it is of course in my own communication. Like, does this play out at a keynote? Does this play out at a workshop? Does this work on a podcast? Does it, like where are the edges? Where is it right for? Where is it not right for? For example, a few years ago, I was asked to do 2 different personal life speeches all within a couple months. One was my brother's wedding, a best man toast. And the other was my best friends were opening a music studio, and they asked me if I would do a 10-minute talk for the ribbon cutting ceremony in front of a live audience, a big community to do. And so I went to my frameworks because I'm like, yeah, I know how to write a speech. I went to my frameworks and turns out they were useless. They didn't work at all for personal speeches like toasts and announcements. So in the introduction to the 1-page keynote, it says, I don't recommend this for those kind of speeches. Like maybe there's some stuff you can pull from, but it's off label. I don't recommend it. So I test stuff out for myself first. When I spoke at Forward, for the most part, the presentation followed this. However, it was a workshop keynote hybrid. So I had to veer off of this framework a little bit because I was doing workshop elements as well, which don't perfectly follow what a keynote would follow.
Well, I mean, you're good with comedy, so I'm sure the best man speech was right on time. I've been a best man 5 times, so like it's been really really cool to see how that's evolved over the years. When I went from just a guy to being a professional speaker, it's changed a little bit.
That speaks volumes, though, just that you've been asked that many times to be a best man.
Yeah. It's well, the funny thing is that two guys equaled 4 of those marriages, just so you know.
Well, all right. Harder to give the second one. But what do you say? Like, good luck.
So, yeah, two of my best friends, I was a best man twice. So
that's funny.
That's
but great.
When I look at the book, one of the things that stuck out to me, I'm gonna go ahead from where the beginning of the book is, because I'm a speaker that talks a lot about adversity. Like adversity is where I come from, right? Like my goal is to get on stage and help people understand that adversity is a requirement for growth, but they're not alone, right? Like my new book just went to the publisher last week, and it's called Adversity is the Assignment.
Woo-hoo.
Right?
Congratulations. That's a big moment.
So the thing that got me as I went through there was trauma dump. I highlighted trauma dump. I've gone back to it multiple times. I'm like, do I trauma dump on people? Like, is that something I need to be more aware of? So can you go into that a little bit, what you mean by that?
Yeah, okay. So first, I have no idea if that's something you're doing because I haven't seen you speak. So we'll find out right now. Here's why I use that term. Trauma dumping is when the speaker treats the audience as their personal therapist. When the speaker gets on stage and the purpose of them being on stage is much more, I need to get this out. I need my voice to be heard. I've been through something and I need someone to validate me, to recognize me. I need to find the others, not because it will necessarily help them. It's almost like I hope it helps somebody, but mostly I need someone to hear my story. And I am not against that. I just think a paid professional keynote speaker, even not paid, forget paid, a professional speaking engagement is the wrong vehicle for that. Toastmasters, the Moth, your therapist, Speaker Slam up in Toronto, even to a certain extent, it's a speaking competition that veers heavily on story, especially stories of trauma, overcoming adversity, those kind of things. There's absolutely a reason to get on stage and own your truth, be your authentic self, share your story, find your voice, get an audience of people to validate, your experience as legitimate and worthy. However, if you're communicating professionally, you are not there for you. Your needs have nothing to do with that engagement. Who is the audience? What do they need? Your story is simply a vehicle to help them solve a problem in their life, to help them understand a point. So my guess is you're not trauma dumping, but you do see it, and you see it in professional context. I'll tell you this, and then I'll let you, I'll toss it back to you to tell me how you feel about it. Just last week, I was on a discovery call for a potential speaking engagement. I came highly recommended, blah, blah, blah. So they're ready to book me, but before they do, of course, we got to talk, make sure I'm a really good fit and I understand their audience, etc. And I asked them I could tell they were nervous. They were nervous, not about me. I could feel it wasn't about me. I can tell when someone's nervous about me as a speaker. Yeah. They were just nervous in general. And I said, it feels like there's something going on. And they said, well, the last couple of years in a row, we've hired expensive professional speakers, and that has been a flop year after year. That's interesting. Tell me about that. Like, what has happened? They said, well, last year we had this woman who was an incredible speaker, very motivational, very inspirational, but she spent pretty much the entire 45 minutes telling her traumatic story of how she overcame her trauma, her tragedy, or whatever. And, it was inspiring. It's amazing she did that. But at some point, everyone in our audience, all of our employees just started looking at each other going, how is this helpful to me? How is this useful to us in our work? How is this relevant at all? And that's the kind of thing I think about when I think about trauma dumping.
Okay. Yeah, that's I can think of a few I've seen right now that, and I don't think, maybe early on in my career I can think about some talks where I used it, but I use my personal story and a lot in intertwining into the message that needs to be delivered by
Mhm.
when the organization says, hey, we really want to focus on X and Y. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
great. Now I'm going to get a personal story to connect with them, to
Mhm.
bring them in, right? To keep them interested and on the edge of their seats. And then we're going to deliver the message that needs to be delivered
Right.
instead of it just being like, here's slide one, here's slide, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, yeah.
you know what I mean? We've all seen that too.
You know what's here's a really good rule of thumb. If at any point the audience is concerned about you, you have slipped too far to the other side. The
Okay.
audience should not be worried about you. They should not be. When I see a speaker, and I know this is this is certainly a hot take. If I were ever on Subway Takes, it would probably be this. If you are ever crying on stage, if you are ever visibly upset, I think that's disrespectful to the audience. I think it makes the audience your therapist without their consent. I don't, that is not how they showed up. That is not what they are there for. And as soon as their audience is concerned about you, they are no longer in their own world trying to solve their problems. They are now in your world trying to solve yours. And that's inappropriate. So I think that's where you can feel, if you ever feel like, oh, the audience is genuinely concerned about me, like they're worried if I'm okay, something has gone wrong.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good, I mean, I appreciate that. And you're right. You know, I don't know. Were you there? Did you stay the whole event?
Mm-hmm. I was there the whole time. I saw everybody you're about to ask me about.
Did you see Ed speak?
I did see Ed. I was about to bring him up.
Yeah. And so I've seen Ed 6 times live. I saw
awesome.
him 2 weeks before that because I live in Indianapolis and the Life Surge event was here. Yeah. So I took 7 of my friends and we went to the Life Surge event and set it up so they could all meet Tim Tebow and stuff. And
that's cool.
And John Maxwell happens to be a friend of mine.
Great.
I don't know. I wrote this book called One Jordan, and we'll send you a copy of it. And what it essentially is stories of how when I was trying to connect with people, I would send them. I get their shoe size, and I send them one Jordan shoe and a handwritten note that says, "If you want the other shoe, give me a call." So I did it to John Maxwell, and Maxwell called me. Right. So. But we've been I text with him all the time. Like we hit it off and had a great relationship ever since, but he was there too. So I saw Ed speak then. And then when I saw him speak at Forward, that was a different Ed Milet. I really felt like it was just,
he was
on a different level
than
I'd seen him before. I'm curious what your take was on that.
Well, I there's no doubt that Ed is one of the great motivational speakers of our era. I mean, he has mastered the craft, right? Craft and message are different things. He has both, but certainly he has mastered the craft of professional speaking. And for me, it was intense. It was not always my cup of tea. I respect the craft, but I also respect Jimi Hendrix. I don't listen to his music. Yeah. So, right. So it's just not, Jimi Hendrix doesn't light me up. Eddie Van Halen does, right? That's just preference. That's had nothing to do with his talent. A lot of what Ed does, I really enjoyed. I did think it was a bit intense. However, there's something Ed has going for him that you or I don't have, which is when you know the guy owns his own island, you're not going to be that worried about him. Yeah. It's almost impossible to be really concerned about him as an audience when you know he's one of the wealthiest humans on earth. Yeah. So I think that is different than just like, whatever, Peter's on stage. I've never heard of Peter and he's crying about something that happened that he's telling you about that happened to him 10 years ago. That is very different.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, that's fair. When you spoke at Forward, some of the notes I had here wrote was, what do I want to say and what do they need to hear? Mm-hmm. Can you break that down for us?
Yeah. And it's a good opportunity to clear up a misconception that would be easy to take that in a different direction. So this is a fundamental paradigm shift that I preach all the time, which is great communication is not about the question, what do I want to say? That's what leads most communicators astray, particularly experts. They go, I know all this stuff. there's so many cool things to talk about. What do I want to say? What do I want to tell these people? And it comes out of passion, excitement. I know all these cool things. But so many of the cool things you know as an expert have no context for the audience. They don't have the background, the experience, the stories, the life, or even the jargon. They don't even know the words that you would use. And so you go, you go, can you believe that this new, we found a mollusk that has 10 times as many hairs as the average mollusk? And you're like, okay. Is that interesting, good, bad, helpful? I have no idea. The person telling you that thinks it's interesting or useful or helpful because they have a tremendous amount of context that the audience doesn't have. So as soon as you talk at the level of what do I want to say, you're going to veer down that path. And so I always tell people, no. What does the audience need to hear? Not what do you want to say? What do they need to hear? Who are they? Where are they at? What do they want? What are they struggling with? What do they fear? What do they believe? Meet them where they're at. Take their hand. Go on a walk. You'd be shocked how far you can take them. But for many experts, it feels like meeting the audience where they're at means dumbing it down.
Yeah.
It's like it's not dumbing it down. It's only boring to you because you know this inside and out. But this isn't about you. Same thing, right? It's not about you. Mm-hmm. You should be bored. If you're talking to non-experts, you will probably be bored by the content. What should light you up is helping the people in front of you who know nothing about this gain a level of understanding that makes their life better when they walk out the room. Of course, you'll be bored by the content. What I talked about even at Forward, the stuff that you get on and go, my God, this book, that book to me is a 101. That barely scratches the surface of the work we do. But the people reading it and reaching out to me going, this is mind-blowing. I've never thought about building a speech like this or communication like that. That's the stuff that I eat, sleep, breathe every day. Getting from what I wanted to say in a book on writing a speech to like that book was years. It took years, for me to do my own process of going, okay, no, just the thing they need to hear, just the thing they need to hear, right?
Yeah. And then there was, I think it was like 3 questions that had fill in the blank. Do you remember those, that slide?
Yeah, of course.
And I wrote some notes down with that because the talk I'm giving this Friday is to a high school football team that I speak to every year. Cool. And I do mental toughness and performance coaching for the athletic program there. So
that's cool.
Different kind of talk, but I have a big networking event coming up in September where I'm speaking at, and they want me to come in and teach the One Jordan strategy.
I love it.
And so I kind of filled in the blanks on that strategy. So I was just curious to what you would think. And so, and I might have missed some of the line here when I wrote it down, but it was, like, we will want to blank, right?
Yeah. We all want blank.
Okay. Yeah. We all want, and I put compressed time.
Okay.
And then, but unfortunately there's no time machine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And this matters because without this, we will run out of time.
Mm-hmm.
And so my idea is to teach the One Jordan strategy based off that, because it's one of the best networking strategies that I've ever used. It helped me compress time when I left corporate America and decided to become a speaker and a coach. That's how I got all my people. That's how I connect with everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
So this is great. I'm so glad you brought this up. Can we actually do this like in real time?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Yeah, of course.
So you're speaking to, you said it was high school, right?
No. So this is a different one. So I'm speaking to high school Friday, but this is actually a group of networking. This is mainly realtors and entrepreneurs.
Got it. Realtors, entrepreneurs. Now, here's my question to you. The realtor in the audience, they wake up at 2:00 in the morning. They can't get back to sleep. They grab their phone and Google something. Are they Googling, how do I compress time?
They're Googling, how can I get more leads?
Bingo. Okay. So that whole idea of the we all want, it should be something that everybody would nod their head to without you needing to explain or make a case for it. So any term that you would use for something, but they wouldn't naturally use, you don't want to put this early in a talk or in any piece of communication, right? The idea of a premise is they accept it as true with or without you. So if you're going to use a term like compressed time, I would use it a little bit later as you explain it, so that then we have a shared language for the rest of the speech. No different than I'm using the word premise with you because you saw me do a 1-hour presentation where I defined premise a bunch of times.
Right.
But I had to define it the first time we used it. So I can't just start using the word premise and assume people know what I'm talking about. That's not a normal word people use. Compressed time is a phrase that entrepreneurs use, but it's not a normal human phrase that you hear in conversation with your friend over, coffee. So I would say, we all want leads, or we all want better opportunities, or we all want to meet more interesting people. Like, it depends on who they are. Those are all different versions of the same thing, but they feel different. So we all want, let's say, leads. We all want more leads. But unfortunately, you could go to time here. If you're going to eventually lead to time as the key, is time the key problem for them, for leads? What do they think the problem is? They want leads, but what's the problem?
Yeah, I mean, I think most people don't know how to get the leads, right?
Yeah.
And then they blame it on, I don't have enough time to cold call. I don't have enough time to do this. I don't have time,
Totally. Okay. So we all want more leads, but there's only so many hours in the day. And when we're already busy, working with our existing clients, making sure that our kids get off to school, whatever, it could feel like there's just no time to do lead generation the way that you really want to, right? So now this feels like it just already exists in their world. They're just nodding. You're not making a case for anything yet. And this matters because is where you lay out the stakes. The stakes are what is likely to go wrong soon if they don't fix this.
Okay.
So, and you can't go too heavy on this, right? You can't do what the climate communicators have been doing for 30 years. I always pick on them because it's a big problem. For 30 years, they've been going, if we don't start using plastic straws, your grandkids will be unable to breathe. Human life will die out. But it's just, I can't think about that.
And then they buy a mansion on the beach.
That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right. So you're talking to these realtors and professionals. You're going, hey, we all want more leads. But, if all the lead generation strategies take a lot of time and between fulfilling our existing clients and our personal life and entering stuff into the CRM, we just feel like we don't have time to do all the stuff we're supposed to do to get leads. But if we don't figure out how to get more leads, then what's going to happen soon?
You're going to be out of business.
Then pretty soon you're going to be out of business. Someone who outworks you on lead generation is going to take your right. That's right.
Yep.
Someone who's simply better at lead generation than you is going to take your business, even if you do run a better service. Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that bing, bing, bing. Now you've established a premise for the talk that's relevant to them without you needing to make a case for it. There's no possible way for them to tune out or disagree with you and bail. And so they're engaged. And so then the next part you would do is you would ask a question. The book lays this out. You would ask what we call the core question, which is the question that your talk serves as the answer to. So what's the question, Chris, that you would then pose at this point? So how do we X? How do we get, what would you say to them?
I mean, so the one Jordan strategy says how to connect with high performing individuals, right? So how do we connect? I mean, how do we connect with that one relationship that could change our business?
Yeah. So you could almost restate the premise by going, how do we get more leads? And when it feels like there's just not enough time to nurture them properly. Or you could say, so is it possible to connect with high quality people without spending an enormous amount of time, right? There's different ways to ask a question. The key to this question is it's a question that the audience should genuinely want the answer to and does not know. You can't ask a superficial question at this point. And you can't ask a leading question, but we all want more leads, right? Does anybody here want, and no one here wants to go out of business, right? It's like, well, that's just a dumb question. But speakers do it all the time. Yeah. They do it all the time. And what happens when you ask a leading question is the audience feels like they're being sold to. People love to buy, but they hate being sold to. Don't ask a leading question. Ask a question they genuinely want the answer to. Is it possible to connect with high quality people, build our network without spending an enormous amount of time? And that's going to make the people in the audience start to go, I think so. It must be. How would I do that? How would I answer it? Do I already know how to do it? And as they start to wonder those questions, that's real engagement. When people say engagement, that's what real engagement looks like. With respect to the body language, tone of voice people out there, engagement is not making a joke. It's not having your hands palm out when you come on stage. Like, that's all great. It's all useful. Real engagement is when the audience actually engages with the message in their own head.
Yeah. No, I love that. And as you're saying it, I'm thinking about your last talk, right, on stage, and all the pieces are starting to fall into place now with when you did that. So, next question for you would be, and you almost talked about this a little bit earlier about us being almost bored sometimes with the information we're going to deliver. I have a guy, and this guy's in the book, and we became friends as well, a guy named Damon West. You know Damon?
No, I don't.
Okay, so Damon wrote a book called The Coffee Bean, him and John Gordon. You know who John Gordon is?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so Damon was a guy who got sentenced to life in prison, but got out like 13 years in, and has been this massive speaker all over the place, telling his story about what happened, and went from college football star to Wall Street guy to meth head to robbing people, right? Like this crazy story.
Typical path.
Yeah. And I said to him, I said, are you still telling the coffee bean story? He goes, I tell that story. That's the story I deliver always.
Bingo.
And John, he said, because when John and Gordon and I were talking, he said, Chris, or he said to Damon, just because you're tired of it, chances are they haven't heard it yet. And here you are, Brian, this incredible speaker, and Damon's an incredible speaker, and you don't know who Damon is. Like, so it makes it even more like.
Do you know how many people don't? There are people who have never heard of Taylor Swift. In fact, there's a lot of them. You know what I mean? Nobody's that famous.
Yeah. And for me, that gives me such hope. Like, I'm speaking at a big event in Dallas. Probably the biggest event I've spoken at so far. About 1,500 people will be there in Dallas, Texas in October.
Cool.
And I'm like there's like 1,480 people that don't know me.
Yeah, that's
that's
right.
What I mean? Like,
that's right.
Like, and the 20 that do is my wife and my clients that are going to be there, right? Like, and my assistant's going to be there. So like,
that's great.
So
that'll be fun.
What a great opportunity that is. But the reason I was going this direction is there a commonality to the keynote, like something that you give more times than not?
Yeah. So Forward 2025, the one that I spoke at last year, I don't know if you saw me the first year I spoke there.
I was there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was my signature speech on message design. The first time I'm asked to come to a conference, it's my signature talk. I've given that talk so many times I could do it right now with no warm-up. I know it word for word, inflection for inflection. Every joke that's impromptu is not impromptu. It looks impromptu. It's rehearsed to be impromptu, to feel impromptu. Okay. So that was my signature talk. And ordinarily, I would just do the same talk again at any event. That's why I have like 2 different signature talks. They're just each on a slightly different topic. The problem was I was invited back to Forward 2 years in a row, and Forward has a cult following. I asked the folks in advance, hey, what percentage of your attendees are returning from last year? And they said it was like 42%. It was a huge amount of people. It was like 400 plus people in the audience were there last year. And I was like, okay, if it had been 10%, I'd have done the same talk as last year. You know, might have changed a little, tweak a little here, a little there, like for the 10% that were there. But 40% is too many people to do the same talk. Now, what's funny is I said that to a couple of people, and they're like, oh, we would have been thrilled to hear the same talk again. Like, we would have been loved to hear it, because people like to hear the hits. They like to be reminded. They like to hear that story again, but they're hearing it at a different time in their life. Last year and this year are different times. The same story means something different. But knowing that it was 40% the same attendees, I decided to do a completely different talk from the year before, apart from maybe one slide, which is, you know, exactly what we already talked about. It's my fundamental thesis, which is stop asking the question, what do I want to say? Start asking, what do you need to hear? I have to say that every time I talk about communication because it is the philosophy that underpins my work. Other than that, it was a completely new talk for you. For me, it was actually 80% the other signature talk that I do on human connection. Now, normally I do that for corporate culture. It's more about interpersonal relationships, but the same underlying philosophy of we need to be better listeners to become better communicators is in that one. So I told the story this year of the blind guy in the restaurant. Well, that's in my TED Talk from 2015. It's what made me famous. I have told that story, Chris, literally thousands of times, word for word. But you've never heard it, and I'm guessing it impacted you because I got hundreds of people after that coming up to me. I got a woman who came up to me sobbing, telling me how much that story meant to her. I have told that story thousands of times. How disrespectful would it be for me to stop telling it because I'm bored of telling it?
Yeah, that's so powerful. I needed to hear that. I mean, I needed to hear that because like I'm bored of telling the One Jordan strategy, like bored out of my mind. But like you didn't know what it was.
No,
right?
And I lit up as soon as you even mentioned it.
I mean, it's my book was an international bestseller, so it's not like it, you know what I mean. But you still don't know what it was, right? So like, there's gonna be people again and again and again that don't know that. And then I'm working on the talk for my new book right now, which will the first time I actually do it in front of a big group will be in Dallas, Texas. I'm going on several podcasts over the next week, so there'll be parts of it on there. But so how do you? So I just had. Do you know Clint Pulver?
Oh yeah, Clint. He's a Hall of Fame speaker. He's great, man.
I had Clint on last week,
Cool.
and I asked him how does he decide if it was a good talk or not? Like, and then. So I'm curious to you, how do you make that decision? Did it hit or not? Like what is that factor? Like, how do you figure that out?
Yeah, this is a great question. I'll answer, and then I want to hear Clint's. I don't want to hear his answer first because I don't want it to influence mine, but I do want to hear what he said. My answer to this 10 years ago would have been very different than it is today.
Yeah.
My answer today, how do I know if it was a good speech? I collect real-time feedback with a QR code. I don't guess. The experience, I've trained hundreds of speakers. The experience on stage as a speaker is almost unrelated to the experience the audience has in the seats.
Yes. Agreed.
What you feel on stage is so different from the experience of the audience, right? Yeah. And because you could know that you missed something. You could know that you forgot to make a point you normally make. You could know that the organizers gave you less time at the last minute than you thought you would have, and so you had to cut something, and now the slides are off. There's all this stuff going on for you, right? You could see pockets of people talking and think people aren't interested. There's all kinds of things that can happen to you on stage. And if you are left to your own devices to simply decide, how did I feel about that? It's almost impossible to have an accurate assessment. I have a QR code. You filled it out, I'm sure. It's I give, here's my bonuses. It's going to ask you a few questions about the speech, about the talk I just gave that will help me and help your organizers make sure you guys get more stuff that you enjoy. And there's an option to make it anonymous. It said you don't have to put in your info, and some people do. Anonymity, you get real answers, right?
Yeah.
And so I get it, and it happens in real time. By the time I'm off stage, I already have 95% of the answers, and it doesn't take that long to answer these questions. They're quick. Yeah. They're easy. And so I literally just open the app, and I just find out how it went. That's all. And I just look at the number. I look at the numbers, and I have my own metrics that I'm measuring against myself, essentially, right? I know what a good speech is for me based on the numbers that I do. Mm-hmm. That's one way, and I'll give you a couple of other things. The second way is the actual metrics for successful communication is very hard to measure, but it is, did people do something new as a result of the talk? Now, this is important. Most people think the baseline metric for a successful talk is, did the audience enjoy it? That's nonsense. I enjoy cat videos. That doesn't mean my life is better, right? You know what I mean?
So does my 2-year-old.
That's what I'm saying, right? That doesn't mean my life is better, right? Like that's not even that's not even a part of this conversation. Enjoyment is not. It's not a good metric. Two, a different way that people think the metric for successful communication is they think the metric for successful communication is understanding. The audience, they spend so much time trying to be understood. Did they understand what I'm talking about and why it matters? But to me, that's table stakes. That's the bare minimum that you should be achieving as a professional communicator.
Mhm.
Please, like understanding that you should assume you can make that. And yet, many people cannot do that, right? I solve this problem for a living. So for me, the true metric for successful communication, particularly on stage as a speaker, is did the audience do something new as a result of the talk? Behavior change. Because if we're not changing behavior, the hell are we doing up there?
Yeah.
And so the problem with that as a metric is that it's very hard to measure in the moment. How I felt in the moment, how the audience reacted, how funny they thought it was, it's very hard to measure, which is why I'm such a big fan, if you are towards the end of the book, of having a simple, achievable, time-bound action step.
Yeah.
An action step, which I give those three criteria: simple, achievable, time-bound. By the first coffee break after I speak, I can hear people using the framework that I taught.
Mm-hmm.
Successful communication achieved, right? They're literally doing something new as a result of the talk.
Yeah.
So one, I have actual data. People tell me how it went and what was successful about it. Two, action step that I can observe people, or at least ask the organizers a week or 2 weeks out if they saw them, if they heard them using something that I taught. Those are two ways to do it. The third way is you should film every single talk and watch it back.
Mm-hmm.
And you'll find out you're not as good as you thought you were every time.
Well, I spoke at the last 2 years I've spoken at Universal Studios for a big mortgage event. And last year I got off stage and I told my assistant, I said, that might've been one of the worst talks I've ever given. Like, it was really bad. And she's like, no, it wasn't. No, I said, well, I pay you. So I mean, no offense, but like, you know,
but I don't believe anything you say. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not going to take it the way you're saying it right now. And then, I not only got invited back, they also rated all the speakers, and I was number 2 out of all the speakers. And I'm like, I thought I just laid an egg, man. I thought it was just really bad.
That is why I started this answer with your experience as the speaker and the experience in the audience are two completely different things. I have done speeches I thought I crushed. They were laughing, they were fun, whatever. And then I got some of the lower scores on my range of possible scores in the feedback forums. I have also done talks that I thought that was not it. I've walked off stage going, that wasn't it. Right. That just wasn't like it was good. It was enjoyable. I'm not capable of giving a quote bad speech at this point in my career, but that just wasn't it. And then, like you just said, invited back, best speaker we've ever had. People can't believe it. They're still talking about it 6 weeks later. You're just like, what in the world?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, 10 years ago, the only way to know if you gave a good speech was to film it, watch it back, and get really honest with yourself. But again, you watching your own speech back and evaluating yourself is not the same thing as somebody who's never seen you speak evaluating that speech.
Yeah, agreed. So here's what Clint said. 2 things. One, Clint, when I asked him the question about giving the same talk over and over, and he said he did that until he created what he calls his wicked keynote. And what he means by that is that the play Wicked has been on Broadway for 35 years. And whether you go on Wednesday night or Saturday night, it's the same exact one. He said, so when I got to a point to where I had my Wicked keynote figured out, that's my main keynote. Like that's the one that I give over and over and over again. Now, how he tells if he feels like if he got, it was good or not is by how many people he has come up to him afterwards and give him cards and talk to him about hiring him as a speaker.
Yes. So that totally makes sense as an answer for Clint. And so here's what I'll say to that. 100% agree. Stage side leads are a terrific cue for paid professional speakers.
Yeah.
I train lots of non-paid, non-professional speakers, people who have to speak, not people who want to speak.
Yeah.
I train scientists and engineers and academics. They have to present their work. People walking up to them and giving them a business card and saying, you got to speak at our event is not the goal.
Right.
The goal is to get a nerdy scientist to get this room full of politicians to understand why their research matters, so they'll fund it for the next 10 years.
Yeah.
So I have to have different metrics but if you are a professional speaker looking to get paid to be on the circuit, then 100% stage side leads. Just, I was going to say between you and me, but we're recording a podcast, so I guess not. This is public. After Forward, I got 81 requests to speak from Forward. So was it a successful talk? Yeah, it was a successful talk. That's more speeches than I would even be willing to say yes to in the next 3 years, right?
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even take them if I wanted to, and if they were all offering my top fee. So I knew that was a success just on the stage side leads alone. People who were on calls with my management literally within 24 hours, already on calls with my management to see if they could get me in this fall to their event.
Yeah.
But if I wasn't a professional speaker, I would have had to go to different metrics, which is why I love QR code, collect data. Are they using something new as a result? And then film yourself, watch it back, get really honest with yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had, definitely had some people come up to me afterwards and talk to me about come speak in their events. I've had multiple people reach out to me afterwards on DM, say, hey, I used the One Jordan strategy and it did this and this, right?
There you go.
So those were good, but I always wondered that, like, I'm like, how can I grade myself? So I think what we'll do too is, for a talk I created this assessment called the Adversity Capacity Index, and it helps you figure out what your normal state is when you hit an adverse situation, right? Whether you're a victim, a survivor, a warrior, or an architect.
Ooh.
So we mapped all this out for part of the book, and it's gonna be our free giveaway from stage. But
great.
what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the QR code in there, so they've got to answer some questions and see what that looks like. So I think that's a great idea.
That's great. I mean, pairing the collect data from the speech with the giveaway is certainly the way to do it. As long as the questions aren't too disruptive. Yeah. As long as it's 30 seconds worth of questions and people loved you. I mean, listen, people who hated you or people who thought that it just wasn't for them, they're not going to fill it out anyway. Right. You're never going to hear from the people who just hated you. And that's fine. Like, some people are like, well, it's not really objective feedback then if you never hear from those people. I'm like, but there's always going to be people who hated you. Like, I had a mentor early in my speaking career who said 10% of every audience will hate you no matter what you do. They won't think you're funny. They won't understand why anybody would be interested in what you have to say or why anyone put you on that stage. Mm-hmm. And he said 10% of every audience will love you no matter what you do. They will think everything you say is the smartest, most profound thing anyone's ever said in history. They're laughing at your setups and exploding on your punchlines. He goes, here's the key. You can safely ignore both of those groups.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about either of them. Haters going to hate. People who love you, but that's not useful to you. He goes, the 80% in the middle, those are people who are open to what you have to say, but haven't been swayed yet. That's where you live. Your job is to move the needle for the 80% in the middle. That's your job. So I don't care at all. Like, people, it's not objective because you'll never get the people who hated you. It's like, yeah, but like, go look up Harry Potter, the Harry Potter books on Amazon and reverse sort by rating. There are hundreds of 1-star reviews, probably thousands. Worst book ever written. You know what I mean? So it's like,
well, it's funny you say Harry Potter because last year the mortgage event I spoke at was in Harry Potter world. That's where I spoke at.
How great is that?
Which was amazing. And this
sounds
year
like a dream conference for me.
Next year we're speaking at Epic Universe. But so all right, two more things and then we'll jump off here. One is if someone wanted to just jump into speaking, like said tomorrow, okay, I want to become a speaker.
Yeah.
How do you think that the one, if they take the 1-page keynote process, is that going to be what they need to do to be able to prepare themselves for stage, or is there more?
Okay. This is a really good question. If somebody wakes up tomorrow and says, I want to be a speaker, the first thing I would do is just challenge that sentence. What does that mean? Why do you want to be a speaker? That's about you. It's right back to what we talked about at the beginning. That's about you. You want to be a speaker. Why? Because you like the idea of getting applause on stage, because you want to share your story, because people have told you at parties that you're really funny. Like, what? Why do you want to be a speaker? Many of the best speakers I know, not all, but many of the best speakers I know did not set out to become speakers. They fell backwards into speaking because what they were so often talking about something that people found so interesting, important, relevant, useful, that they were starting to just be given opportunities, asked, would you get up on stage and talk about that? Right. Which is not to say you can't decide you want to be a speaker. There's nothing wrong with saying like, well, I love the idea of being a speaker. That seems like fun. That's great. But that should not be the end of the conversation. You then need to go, fine. I would like to be a rock star. Like, but just me wanting to be a rock star is not, it's not that helpful.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Trust, there's 14 guitars in this room. I wanted to be a rock star, man. I'm as close as I'm going to get. I'm a speaker. So you wake up, you want to be a speaker. Fine. Set that aside for a second. The actual question is, what do I know that people who don't know this would find valuable, would find useful? What perspective do I have on what I know is a perspective that people have not heard before. You don't have to know something that no one else knows. Like when I talk about human connection, I'm talking about listen to understand instead of to respond or reply. That advice has been around for thousands of years. But I have an angle on it, which is I learned the power of that through a career as a professional magician. So I've got a perspective on human connection, on listening, that is different from the one they've heard before, right? So it's like, do I have something useful to people, and do I have an angle that would make it easier for them to engage with it? Start there, and one of the earliest chapters in the book takes you through that process, because it's like before you write a word of a speech, let's make sure you have your topic and your angle. So that is where I would start. And if you start there, you force yourself to enter the speaking journey focused on the audience first always, instead of I want to be a speaker, right?
Yeah. So the last question on it is, how do you speak more?
So how do you speak more? There are no shortage of speaking opportunities if you're willing to speak to anyone who's willing to listen, right?
Yes.
So there are no shortage of speaking opportunities. Every local Chamber of Commerce, Rotary Club, networking group, 8 a.m. networking event, they all need volunteers. They all need someone to give 5-minute talks, 10-minute talks. Your local library will almost definitely be thrilled to have someone who's not charging, who will come give a 45-minute. Like, is there something that you know that certain types of people in your community would find valuable that you could teach them in 45 minutes or even 30 minutes or an hour? Your library would probably be thrilled to host you to do that. Every Zoom group in existence needs guest speakers from time to time, and none of them pay. What's interesting, and you will find this very quickly, is that even though all those groups I just mentioned who don't pay, they have no budgets, you still have to sell them. You have to convince them to bring you in. Just because you're willing to do it for free does not mean they'll put you up in front of their people, because their people are still paying with their time and their attention, which is very valuable. So you still have to come in with a decent message. And so you can use the book, the framework in the book, just to build the message that you would bring to those people, even if you haven't built the full speech yet, right? Or you can build a 5-minute version of a speech or a 10-minute version of the speech using what's in the book, and use that as how you're going to pitch it to those people. If you genuinely have never spoken in public before and just like the idea of it, then just go to Toastmasters.
Yeah.
Toastmasters is certainly, they have the market cornered on, I'm shaking in my boots about the idea of saying anything out loud in front of a group of people. They will get you over that. This book will not. This book has nothing to do with that, the fear of public speaking. But if you're not in a situation where you're just like, I need to learn how to confidently say words in front of humans, if you're not in that situation, this book will help you get your message right.
Yep. I agree. I think that it's definitely a great tool, and has made me rethink some things from the way I was taught to speak originally and some of the other stuff. So I've been able to put some of the frameworks in. My first speaking coach was Renee Rodriguez. And so I learned a lot from Renee. So there's some stuff here we can implement into that as well. And I know a lot of my listeners know Renee, and he wrote the foreword for my book. So There's so much there. And I'll quote what John Gordon told me when I interviewed him for my book. I said, John, how do I speak more? And he said, speak more. And I said, okay, well, you got to give more than that. And he said, you speak anywhere anybody will listen.
That's right.
And I can tell you from experience, I have spoken in rooms with 2 people, 3 people.
As have
and,
I.
Yeah. And that's what I've done just to get reps in and test things out and go.
And I'll tell you this, as recently, and people think, oh, you get to a certain level and you never have to deal with that again. Nonsense. As recently as last year, I had been booked, paid professional speaker fees, flown halfway across the country to a college campus, a community college, 2-year school. They wanted me to give my human connection talk to their students. But because they're a commuter school, they don't have anybody who lives on campus. So after hours programming is not a good fit for them. And so they're like, but how are we going to convince students to come to a speech, right? Like, that's not like come to see a magic show. It's not as easy. So what they did, their solution was to put me on a stage in the dining hall during the lunch break in between classes, because they thought if they have to come into the dining hall in between classes to get food, at least they'll see that there's a speaker. Now, you're already sweating thinking about this, right? So you're up on, this is surprise speech. This is crazy. This is crazy. I'm up there.
Yeah.
Nobody here is here for me or for a speaker. They didn't even know there was going to be a speaker. They're here having lunch, maybe studying for their test that's coming up in an hour. And suddenly there's a guy with a microphone talking about human connection. It is the most bizarre. You see, some people had their earbuds. Some people like took an earbud out to be like, the fuck is going on?
What's
like,
this guy doing? Other
people looked at me and then put earbuds in, like to be like, I'm trying to study for my, like, I'm telling you, Chris, I'm on stage. And last year at Forward, you saw when I walk out on stage, I had everybody put their arms out in front of them and try this little magic trick with their hands. I open almost every speech like that. I didn't this year because so many people at Forward saw me do it last year. But I do this like interactive thing. Literally, I've done it thousands of times. Everybody, I walk on stage and go, everybody put your hands out like this. And I wiggle my fingers. Everyone just does it. Everyone does it at every event, everywhere. It doesn't matter. 8 a.m., 7 p.m., doesn't matter. I walk up here onto this stage. There's like 5 or 6 students who are sitting kind of near the front of the room ready for me because they kind of got a sense. Maybe they're part of student activities. And they're looking at me. They know I'm going to do a speech. Guy introduces me. The rest of the dining hall is ignoring me. I walk up on stage. At least just these 6 people sitting right in front of the stage. I go, here you go. Put your hands out like this. Everybody hands out like this. Chris, all 6 of them just sat there. They just kept their. Now they're making they're 5 feet from me. I mean, I could hit them if I wanted to. I wouldn't, but I wanted to. They're sitting there, right, looking me in the eye, and I went, yeah. Come on, just a little warm up that magicians do. Arms crossed, nothing. And so I got my arms out in front of me doing this like an idiot. Not one person will do it. One person's all I need to just make it fun. Not one person. So I finally put my hands down and I just go, all right. And then I did the first line of the speech. And I'm like, 59 minutes to go, right? I got to fill an hour. I was paid for an hour. So speak anywhere to anyone. And I'll tell you this, I'll leave you with this. That is a speech that you would imagine was the worst speech you could possibly get. Like how you got to come off there and just go, well, I quit, right? I don't know what I'm going to do, but it's not going to be this anymore. I finished that speech. The campus had purchased 30 copies of my book, which is brutal. They purchased 30 copies of my book. And I'm like, this is so embarrassing. I'm going to have to buy these back off of them. I just feel so bad about this, right? I go to the back of the room where they have a stack of books for me to do a book signing after that speech. And I sit down going, this is going to be the most embarrassing thing ever. A line of about 22 kids lines up. They were all in the room. Some of them heard part of it. Some of them missed the beginning but tuned in later. Some of them heard. About 22 kids quietly, one by one, came up. Asked them their name, write their name, signed the book. Each one by one, told me a story. I was born in a different country. I'm the first generation, whatever. I'm the first one who's ever gone to school. And that thing you said about X, Y, and Z, every single one of them had a story. So even that gig, I just did it. I did the whole speech the way it was meant to be done, as if I had a room full of forward folks engaged in screaming. 22 kids, big impact. That's the power of being a speaker.
That's the power of being a pro too, is understanding that I have to deliver regardless, right? Of what that's like. And it's funny, I've been through so many different things where the microphone doesn't work, or this doesn't work, or that doesn't work, or this, it's like, hey, we still got to keep going. But I'm thank you for sharing that story, Brian. That's really powerful. So if somebody wants to learn more from you, about you, what's the best way to connect?
Cool. If you're interested in speaking or professional communication at all, head to onepagekeynote.com. You can pick up a copy of the book. That's the easiest way to enter my world right now. Other than that, onepagekeynote.com. Other than that, you can just find me, Brian Miller, Brian Miller Speaks. LinkedIn is my primary platform. I am reluctantly on Instagram.
Well, I'm going to go check out the TED Talk, because I did a TED Talk last August, so I can't wait to see yours.
Congratulations.
It was the hardest talk I've ever given.
Everybody says it. We have trained now we have coached over 50 TEDx talks, and I have worked with dozens of academics who have PhDs. Every one of them has said a version of, I've defended a doctoral dissertation, and this was the hardest thing I've ever done. There was something different about the
literally
red dot.
Hardest. Like I was in my car and I forgot everything I was supposed to say. It was the craziest thing ever, Brian. So it just was.
The red dot messes up everybody, man.
I'm glad it's over, but it was awesome to be
It was awesome.
Picked.
Never again.
Yeah.
People 11 years after my TEDx talk went viral, people were like, are you ever going to do another one? I'm like, no, it got 3.5 million views. Why would I ever do that again? No.
Yeah, that's amazing. I am going to go check it out today, though. So thanks a lot for coming on today, Brian. I appreciate you.
Thanks so much for having me, man. We'll talk again soon.